Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to just thank Chairman Fuentes for his hard work and his really focused attention on this issue. Appreciate the efforts to really bring a comprehensive rate approval approach to the table. Appreciate the real community outreach that's been done. Marcy, appreciate your leadership and coming out to the district, doing a little tour. Appreciate Chairman your leadership on the commission and the ratepayer and advocates. And I certainly am inclined to support this the increase as my colleagues have suggested. But you know, we talk about water and power. It's also a great deal of economic power, obviously, in it. And, you know, we have a concern, one, about small businesses, local businesses. In my committee, the ED committee, we did a survey of city departments and the programs that they have regarding small businesses, local business participation, et cetera. I'm not sure if DWP responded. Several of the departments didn't. But I would like to get some take from you on programs you're going to have to encourage more small business participation in contracting. I know that there are obviously some limitations, you know, to gigantic power plants and turbines, et cetera. But what are you doing to encourage local businesses, small businesses to do business with DWP? And have you been successful in those efforts?
I will tell you, sir, of all the information I brought, that probably wasn't included. And what we will do is go back and go through our programs, make sure we respond to the interest as far as what we have, and we'll provide you a more detailed report.
Okay. I would appreciate it. And, you know, again, I think you should elevate this as an important area, as a priority area. I think it's equally...
The chair did remind me, sir, that we have been holding a series of small business academies, which are designed to inform small businesses in how to access funds, how to work within the city. I think we had, it's like 800 or 900 people attend the last one. So we have been doing that.
And I might just add that a number of the graduates of the Small Business Academies have come to the board meetings and commented favorably on how this has helped them to understand our processes better and help them to be able to compete and procure more effectively.
Yeah. Well, I think the council would also like to know, especially the Economic Development Committee, what the initiatives have been, the success in those initiatives, and again, how we can increase. You know, we're talking about making a bigger pie. You know, we also want to level the playing field to the extent that we can. In another area, you mentioned that we're going to be procuring $1.5 billion in bonds a year for the next 4 or 5 years. And again, my question is, how are we working with emerging firms, small firms? Are we encouraging partnerships? Are we just going to Wall Street? You know, are we letting some of these local professionals get in on this public financing opportunity, multi-billion-dollar opportunity?
And as we've done in the past, we are using those firms that you mentioned, a number of them. We have a great deal of firms, but we do have firms, minority-owned firms, to give those opportunities. And we'll continue that with this going forward. In fact, there's going to be a lot more opportunity because of the level and the amount of bonds that we're going to issue. So we'll continue that program.
Well, again, I'd like to get some information on that program. If you have a list, I'm just curious, or who's responsible for it, or how you're doing outreach to firms, professional organizations that may have an interest in participating in some degree. Finally, talk a little bit about how this, and I think you kind of referenced it a couple times, but how this rate adjustment is going to impact low-income families. You know,
go ahead.
And I saw that the tiers is the lower tier, just presuming that those are kind of the poor folks who just use a little bit of electricity, or kind of how does that kind of shake out?
So when our rates are again, conservation-based rate design, and when we look at our customers that are in our low income or lifeline, they tend to use lower amounts of power and water than our typical customer. So that we're consistent with our cost of service, those customers will see lower rate increases because of their conservation for whatever reason that they're doing it. But I know that the low-income and Lifeline customers do use less power, where we have a typical power customer consumes about 500 kilowatt hours. The low-income and Lifeline are about 350 to 400. So they'll see lower increases, which is consistent with the rate design and consistent with the cost of service. So it will be a lower rate increase for those
So
customers.
aside from the rate, what do you call it? What was the program for low income?
Low income, and then there's a
Mr. Price,
Lifeline. Which
Yeah,
is,
the Lifeline. So
Right.
just the Lifeline. Lifeline is your primary program, though, for low income. Is that
no,
correct?
actually, low income is the bigger program, which is based on how much the customers make, and they get a subsidy. Lifeline is for older as well as medical needs customers that we have, and again, we can give you
It
more
provides a lower
details. On
rate.
that. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then finally,
Mr. Price, why don't you press
Mr.
your
President,
button? What, is this your last one?
yes, sir.
All right.
Just one last quick one here. On the lawn rebates, a spectacularly successful program, a lot of interest in it. Is DWP out of that business now, or are we going to see some more another rebate program for converting lawns?
We still offer rebates for changing out turf. They're slightly smaller because they're not being subsidized anymore by the Metropolitan Water District, but we still have a good rebate.
Okay. And I appreciate the conversion that was done at the district office, at our district office. It's gotten a lot of compliments, and I think it goes a long way to, putting the money where the mouth is. Thank you. Congratulations.
Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeff, I wanted to follow up on Councilmember Price's question, but I have 3 questions and a quick comment, so if you could make your answer succinct. Can you elaborate on that tier system for both water and power and how you calculate it? But more importantly, you mentioned earlier about how you're going to divert more power to warmer areas. So how does the tier system affect warmer regions in the city like the San Fernando Valley?
Sure. So in both our water and power, we look at and tier our rates, which is based on the science. So it's based on the science of the temperature zones. We know, for example, on the water side, if you're in a warmer zone in the valley, that you require more water for California drought-tolerant landscapes. So those areas will get higher amount. We're using, it's called ETAF, which I won't get into that. And on the power side, it's the same thing. If you have a refrigerator, which is a big consumer, and it's 10 to 15 degrees warmer, you're going to consume more energy. As such, you get more energy and you get bigger budgets or allotments in the valley.
Okay.
And that actually yields pretty consistent rates as far as overall rates, but we know it's based on the science.
So the tiers are set a little higher.
Correct.
Second question, I don't know if you can answer this today, but impacts on city departments, in particular recreation and parks. I believe I spoke with them, and with this new increase, they're expecting like a $40 million jump in their water bill.
Right, and that is the Schedule F, which based on Prop 218, we have to go on cost of service. And so for a long time, that's been a very low rate. We have been doing a lot of work with Rec and Parks through energy efficiency, water conservation, to try to minimize the impacts of that. We're also doing it, and we're phasing it in over 5 years, so it's mitigating some of that impacts. But it's going to be an ongoing effort with Rec and Parks, but it's a legal constraint that we're under.
Maybe we could continue this conversation possibly with Councilmember Krikorian in the Budget Committee, but I'd really like to kind of explore that. Third question, actually I'll just convert it into a comment. My office has been working closely with DWP on the critical infrastructure water main repair at Runyon Canyon. And I think we've finally gotten to a point where this project is moving forward, and the coordination between the various departments that my office insisted has saved the city $2 million. I'm hoping you'll build more of this management of this type of collaboration into the management of future ongoing infrastructure projects, and I'm sure you're going to do that. All right. Lastly, on this vote, I have to be honest. I really feel like I'm in a rock and a hard place because, I want to be clear. I mean, you guys made a very persuasive argument today. Not just today, but many times when you briefed my office. And there is no denying the fact that we need to improve our infrastructure for both water and power. No denying that fact. And the initiative that you're proposing today are more than reasonable and more than necessary. But the question today is, But that's not necessarily the question today. I think the bigger question is accountability. The need to assure our constituents that the rate increase that we're going to do today is actually going to go towards infrastructure and nowhere else. While I personally would have loved to have the reform discussions before we had this vote today, I do understand and concede the urgency of the fact that we need this vote. So while today's discussion is not about reform, when we do have that discussion, I look forward to re-examining this transfer because I have grave concerns that the transfer that we currently do in the city is currently tied to revenues. And part of our work to restore trust in government has to be looking at reforms that put controls on this transfer that separates the revenue and provides limits. So that the folks and our constituents don't think that we're raising rates to increase funding to the city. So thank you.
On the issue of accountability, Councilman, which is extremely important, obviously, I'd like to ask the ratepayer advocate to just outline very briefly a couple of the provisions that are now included in this proposal at his suggestion, which deals specifically with accountability.
First, we're proposing a number of performance measures for the department that will be reviewed twice a year by the DWP board, and that will continue through the process. In addition, there will be a complete top-to-bottom review after 2 full fiscal years, making sure the money has been spent where it was planned, and making adjustments as appropriate, thoughtfully, not automatically, but thoughtfully and transparently at the end of 2 full fiscal years. But we'll be watching this every half year.
Yeah, no, and you guys did a great job of building a great coalition, and I mean, having the ratepayer advocate in support means a lot. Thank you.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me say that this may be the beginning of a new day for the DWP. And I, too, want to thank Ms. Edwards and the team for the outreach that you've done regarding this case. Mr. Fuentes, I think, has done a masterful job in shepherding this through, and also in raising the very important issues about governance and reform and restructuring that so many of my colleagues have spoken about. And I'm very heartened by both of those things. I also share the concern just expressed by Mr. Ryu and by many of my other colleagues about accountability and ensuring that whatever rate increase there may be at any time is spent appropriately on what serves the best interests of the ratepayers. But members, I also know this. When I was running for the council 7 years ago, the intersection of Coldwater and Ventura exploded when a 62-inch water main, one of the main sources of drinking water for this entire city, blew up. And that intersection was flooded, businesses were destroyed, homes were destroyed, and Mr. Kretz and I went door to door, meeting those neighbors as they were hauling all of their worldly goods out of their homes and onto their lawns that had been destroyed by mud and water. And this is that pipe. This is a piece of the water main that William Mulholland laid for this city in 1914. And that's the pipe that destroyed our constituents' homes and businesses. So anybody who thinks that this utility can continue to function and serve our ratepayers and serve our business community without investing heavily in its power and water infrastructure right now is living in a fantasy world. And we just have to be real about the fact that even with this rate increase, this utility is competitive with or cheaper than the surrounding utilities in our area and much less expensive than every investor-owned utility in Southern California, even with this increase. So we would be doing a disservice to our business community we would be doing a disservice to our homeowners, our property owners, our renters, everyone who lives in this city if we don't allow this utility to start investing in the things that we all know and all should be able to agree that we must invest in right now. There was quite a discussion about renewable energy, and I have as strong a history on renewable energy, I think, as anybody. But that's not really this discussion. This discussion is keeping the lights on. This discussion is about making sure that we turn the handle on the tap, water comes out, so that we don't become like Flint, Michigan. That's what this discussion is about. So I would urge you, members, all of us, let's show unanimity, let's show strength, let's show that, we understand that water and power are the things that make this city function. And without making an investment like this, a modest investment, an investment that the LA Times said was too little, that even our OPA suggests may be too little. Let's at least do this much. Then let's get busy on the hard work that Mr. Fuentes and others have talked about in restructuring, reforming governance, doing the other accountability measures we do, and let's take a long-term view for how we continue to supply water and power for the people of this city. But it starts now with your aye vote on this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Englander.
Thank you. Because of the events surrounding the Aliso Canyon gas leak, its effect on the residents and businesses in my district, I know too well what can happen when vital infrastructure is allowed to age to the point where it fails. Infrastructure cannot be neglected. It requires consistent investment and updating. Governance of municipal utilities is also essential infrastructure. And DWP's is every bit as outdated as the pipes, the transformers, transmission systems, and it too requires dramatic overhaul. Transparency and customer service are also essential cornerstones for a modern municipal utility. And unfortunately, the DWP doesn't have that great of a track record going back decades. The recent billing scandal and subsequent settlement of ratepayer lawsuits are obvious recent examples. It highlights a DWP culture that is so deeply mired in bureaucracy that it took over a year to resolve problems related to the debacle, including the ability to simply hire enough customer service representatives to meet that need. So I cannot support a rate increase that essentially allows the city to delay governance, transparency, and customer service reform. The residents of my district have been asking the ratepayers and to get involved in governance and asking the ratepayers to pay more while waiting for reform that may or may never come is just putting the cart before the horse. So reforming the governance, improving transparency, providing improved customer service, this is a three-pronged formula for success for rate increases that I would support. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask Mr. Fuentes if he'd like to say a few words to close, members, I just want to say that I was just at a meeting last night where I indicated that leadership is not about doing what you want to do. That leadership is about doing what you have to do. That leadership is about taking people places where they don't think they want to go. And I think that kind of sums up the position that we are in today. I would like to acknowledge the hard work of Marcy and the department, the hard work of my former Assembly member and Congressperson Mel Levine and all of the people at DWP. I think that the members of this council demonstrated today that they are knowledgeable, concerned, and that they are well versed in this issue, and that they are determined to move forward. So I'm very, again, proud to be a member of this body. But I also have to say that where it relates to Mr. Fuentes, Mr. Fuentes is the first individual that really talked to me about the importance of incorporating reform into the conversation were related to increases on the water side, on the power side. He did this at a time when it was not the talk of the town, when it was not the popular subject. He did this because he firmly believed it, and all of the work that he's done for, I want to say, about a year or longer to put in place recommendations where it relates to governance, and his thought process where in response to the request to raise rates. So I just think that it's important that we go on record, and I do want to acknowledge that. A few members mentioned concerns where it relates to governance, and I want to indicate to you that the committee overseeing this process has already met once. It is scheduled to meet again tomorrow in the Valley, and it is the desire, the goal of the Rules Committee to have before you, us, this body, in June, a reform package that we will be able to vote on and place before the voters. But again, with all of that said, I do want to now recognize and thank you for the thought-out process, the good hearings, and for the additional work that you put in on this, Mr. Fuentes. With that said, to close, I recognize you, sir.
Mr. President, there's no better close than that. I urge an aye vote.
Okay, I like that. All righty then. So, Madam Clerk, let's open the roll. Oh, it's a two votes, so let's go 9. Let's vote 9, then we'll vote on 10. So now the vote is on item 9. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
Let us now go to item 10. Let us open the roll, close it, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
Okay, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
And Mr. President, those ordinances will be held over to March 15th for a second reading.
Okay, thank you. Members, a very good conversation, and I want to acknowledge the members of the public that came in to share their views as well. Ms. Martinez? Ms. Martinez?
Madam Clerk, let's move on to item 23.
Item 23, called special by Councilman Huizar.
Mr. Huizar?
Fantastic.
Item 23, sir.
That's right.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, we discussed last week Excite Technologies, a battery recycling facility in the city of Vernon, which was allowed to operate for more than 30 years with a temporary permit by the California Department of Toxic and Substance Control. This agency is charged to regulate Exide and protect our communities, but after violation, they still were allowed to operate, eventually exposing 100,000 people to dangerous levels of arsenic and contaminating as many as 10,000 homes with lead pollution. Decades of unabated pollution from Exide battery recycling plant has resulted in excessive contamination levels in what many are calling a silent toxic catastrophe in Boa Heights, East Los Angeles, and Southeast Los Angeles, where residents have been complaining about unexplained health issues consistent with toxic exposure, including cancer and other illnesses. On February 12th, when we introduced a resolution and this motion, we stood with people from Resurrection Church in Boa Heights, including individuals who had heartbreaking stories to tell about death and illnesses in their families and on their blocks due to what they believe was long-term exposure to this plant and its contamination. And our biggest concern as we stand now was that DTSC and the state were simply not reacting to what they say is the largest contamination in state history, and they weren't acting like the major emergency that it is. The resolution we passed earlier last month sends a statement that the City of Los Angeles supports actions by Governor Brown and the state legislatures. It also ensures that we are on record saying that the DTSC needs to have a fully funded and expedited plan with a public timeline and all the necessary resources, financial and otherwise, to test and quickly remediate all possibly contaminated homes and public spaces in Boa Heights, as well as the surrounding communities and cities which share our concern. The motion before us today calls for the city attorney to report back in 30 days on what legal remedies are available to the city to obtain accountability and adequate cleanup funding from Exide and the state. It is important for the city to know its legal options to ensure that DTSC and Exide can be held accountable for the cleanup that is needed to protect our residents. 2 weeks ago, after our motion and resolution were introduced, the governor committed $176.6 million to clean up the lead in the soils of Boa Heights and the surrounding communities, residential yards, schools, parks, and daycares. This is a great step forward, but it is not enough. Currently, the DTSC is undergoing environmental review of its plan for the closure and remediation of the Exide site closure plan. We need the Bureau of Sanitation to prepare and submit comments on the EIR for DTSC's site closure plan prior to the March 28, 2016 deadline. These comments should demand the closure plan follow the highest standards of public safety and environmental protection. More specifically, these comments should include safety of workers remediating the site, plans to protect the public during the transport of hazardous materials and contaminated soil through residential communities, the safe handling and removal of tons of lead that remains at the site, and protection of the surrounding community from any airborne contamination stirred up by the closure activities. I would like to thank Councilmember Fuentes for waiving this matter from his committee because of the extreme urgency of this issue. I would like to call and I want to thank the Bureau of Sanitation for their initial work, but if somebody here is from the Bureau of Sanitation, I have a couple of questions for you, if that's okay. Thank you.
Mr. Saldivar, welcome. Good afternoon. Mr. Weezer, we also have a couple of cards on this item.
You have?
We also have a couple of public comment cards.
Public comment. Okay, thank you. Just a couple of questions. And first, thank you to the Bureau. You've done some work already, some preliminary analysis. But given the urgency of this issue and the deadline of March 28th, we want to ensure that we get our comments in. I know sometimes these comments take some time to prepare and analyze, and given the technical issues involved, can we meet this deadline?
Yes, we can, Councilman. Enrique Saldivar, General Manager of LA Sanitation. We can. We have the capacity, the capability. You know, we are an environmental protection agency, so we have depth in this area.
Thank you very much. And so this can be handled quickly and efficiently. And do we have the proper expertise in the department to respond to DTSC's plans to transport hazardous waste through the community and recommend protections for the community as they transport these, if they so choose to transport hazardous waste through our communities?
We do, and in fact, I want to introduce to you right now, to my left, is the person whom I have designated as my chief scientist in this. He's also leading the review of the EIR first and foremost right now. He is also calling on the depth of our expertise in other areas within the department. So Dr. Maz Dujiri is here sitting to my left.
Thank you. Welcome. So just basically, if we have the proper expertise in our department, I want to ensure that as we review the technical documents, the city is able to properly review the documents. And we're raising this, I'm raising this because we have lost faith in the DTSC and their ability to properly oversee the remediation. They've been slow to respond. They've been issuing temporary permits for 30 years after violation of violation. So we want to ensure that if the state is not doing their proper job, that the city is stepping in with proper expertise. And just a question, do we have that expertise to properly evaluate the EIR and give proper comments?
Yes, we do. I have someone on my staff, Dr. Mahesh Pujari, who is an excellent chemist, and he's going to oversee the chemistry portion of it. And we have another individual with our regulatory affairs division, Mr. Jim Marchese, who is an expert in reviewing EIRs. And I have actually reviewed the EIR myself.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, and we look forward to the comments and appreciate you being here today and staying through the other items to be able to respond to those questions publicly. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. The first speaker is Frank Villalobos on item 23, followed by Teresa Marquez and John Walsh.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you concerning this very important matter in Boyle Heights. My name is Frank Villalobos, and my address is 3530 3rd Place in the city of Los Angeles. I'm here in support of this item because our councilman is correct in his statement that this is perhaps the largest single catastrophe that has happened, not because we are the ones that are causing it, but our neighbor to the south has been causing these kind of concerns over and over again. I am concerned primarily with the ability to look into the water damage that is caused. 7 years ago, it was determined that the water coming out of the storm drain system was polluted. And that is how it brought to the attention of AQMD at the time. And we then recognized that we were beyond our ability to control it. So in this environmental study, I would appreciate the opportunity to participate along with the department to make sure that we are prepared with any kind of dilemma that we may face in the environmental, because the state excluded the environmental requirements as part of the funding. And so thank you, and I am in support of your concerns.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Teresa Marquez, followed by John Walsh.